the Terava Skrama from Varusteleka in Finland. New to me, out with it for the first time today. You're interested in hearing my initial thoughts? Stay tuned. The Terava Skrama. As I mentioned, it's the first time that I've had it at the woods. It only arrived at my home just about a week ago. I haven't had a chance to do much more than handle it, so I'm out here today to see what I can do with it, to learn a little bit of it, how it'll perform in the woods, to see where it'll fit in my tool bag of all the tools that I take into the wood. Will it replace a knife? Will it replace a hatchet? I don't think so, but you know, it might come pretty close to that. So it's not a new knife design. Well, this knife has only been on the market a few years, but the basic design is very old. An old Scandinavian design known as the Seax. And the Seax was a short sword that doubled as an all-round functional tool for camp chores, wood prep, meat prep, that type of thing. What makes this knife differ from any other big knife that I see on the market right now is the handle. And don't make no mistake, this is a big knife. At 15 inches, this is just about the length of most small hatchets. Now it only weighs in at just over a pound, but still, it has a lot of power behind it, and that is due to the lengthened handle. Now I've got a few thoughts on the handle, but so far my initial impressions are this knife feels much lighter than it should for its weight of just over a pound. And that's due a lot because of the weight of the handle. It is a full tang construction. It is not a broad tang. In other words, it is covered with a rubber or a hard plastic type rubber overmold, but it does extend all the way through the handle. And of course, that being lighter than the blade itself, combined with the weight of the plastic, gives me a balance right on the edge. This is an extremely well-balanced knife, and that's the first thing I noted about it, because the weight in the handle allowed for nice little swings, while when you get all the way back, you can have the weight, the full weight of the knife for chopping. And although I'm not a big chopping knife kind of guy, what I have found so far is that for processing down small trees, maybe 2 inches in diameter, from taking it right off at the base and then sectioning it up after I take the limbs off, this is performing very well. It won't replace a saw, won't replace a hatchet, but it does most of those things pretty good. So what are my initial thoughts on the handle itself? I'll bring it up, and this is, I'm sure you've seen this before. If you look at the back half, it has a traditional palm swell and what's like two choils that will fairly good size for a grip around. Now in my extra large hands, I found without gloves on that this is just a tiny bit small. But forward of that is another protrusion. And in this choil, it seems to be expected that you're going to put your forward two fingers in there so that you can grip up very tight, very close to the edge of the blade. And it does work. What I have found, however, is that this can be a little annoying. I am getting a few red spot or hot spots right where that comes in between these two fingers and the next finger to it. Now this is just initial impressions. It may be that I'm just not used to holding it correctly. There may be a lot more to this knife than my experience so far has given me. It does, you can go all the way back to the very base of the blade, and you can get a 2 or 3 finger grip on this, and that'll allow you a lot of power, getting the maximum swing out of this. Now the steel is a medium to high carbon steel, 80 CR2. Not well known in North America except for knives that come from Varusteleka. But it's a good quality steel, and more important is the heat treat. And so far, even though I've only had limited experience with it, the heat treat seems to be holding up very well. No chips, no rolls, no need to sharpen. Speaking of sharpening, interesting for those of you who may not be aware, there are 2 different grind angles on this knife. So the forward part of the knife, from the tip back about 6 inches, maybe even 7 inches, there's one grind angle, a little bit more obtuse, a little bit more tough for chopping tasks. But in the last 2 inches, they've angled it a little less obtuse and allows for more fine carving work. And you can get up pretty close on this. Now I did try to carve some a feather stick with this, and maybe the wood wasn't the best choice, but I was able to create a few feathers off of it, and that's first time out with it, so I'm hoping I'll get better with it. So I'm not sure where this will end up in my toolkit, how often I'll take it out. Right now I'm finding it to be extremely useful. Penetrates very deeply when swung. Allows me to do nice splitting tasks. It is a saber grind. As much as that looks like a Scandinavian or zero grind, it's not. There is a secondary bevel on it, making this a saber grind. But most of the blade is at full thickness of about 4.2 millimeters. Now, they have taken the time to actually work the edge, so you have a 90-degree edge on this for fire starting. I haven't tried that yet, but I'm going to give that a try. And one of the things I've discovered about this so far, what I like about it, is how well it works using it like a draw knife. That broad forward tip allows me to grab my hand there quite safely, and I have all kinds of handle, of course, back here, and I can pull the knife towards me very safely and use it in a very controlled manner for bringing off big shavings, either for shaping wood or for using those shavings for fire starting as well. So let me roll in a few clips of my using this knife, first time out, and that's where we'll close it up. So the Terava Skrama, made in Finland, sold from Finland through Varusteleka, came to me. Well, I didn't buy it with the traditional leather sheath. I bought it with the plastic inner liner that would normally be used in this sheath. It's just a safety cover for this. Reason I didn't want to, one is I saved a considerable amount of money, but the other reason is that I don't plan on wearing this on my belt, at least not yet. It's a bit too big and a bit too much weight for me to carry on my belt, so this is going to slide down the side pocket of my backpack, and this will give me the protection it needs from the blade edge. And it is secure. I haven't shoved it in very far, but no, it's not going to come out unless you push on the thumb ramp and release it. $82 Canadian. It was worth the investment to see whether or not I like it. So far I do, but only time will tell. So this has been an introduction to this knife, not a full review of this knife. I haven't had it long enough for that, but when I do have a considerable bit more experience with this knife, I'll come back and give you my final thoughts on it. And until that time, get out and explore. take that path less traveled, it will make all the difference. Bye for now.